Again, you don't need any context for this, but this is just me being bored again. So, thanks for watching. See ya. 10, 18, 23. Noita Daily run. How heavy do you think a medieval sword is, though? Like, honestly.
Like, if we're talking like a longsword's pretty heavy. Like, it's like if we're saying like it's a 2.5-ish feet long strip of spring steel, it probably weighs like a good few pounds.
Because,
Plus, obviously, you have like a thick crossguard and like a handle.
yeah, a lot of what I've heard is that it's like your blade at most will weigh like 5 pounds.
Yeah.
Which, don't get me wrong, it's like, that's still like a decent amount to fucking heave around, but that's like not as much as I thought it would be. I thought they fucking swung around like 20-pound fucking metal sticks. Honest to God.
Honestly, like there are. I know there would be like certain kinds of like swords, like I know like genuine great swords would weigh a lot more.
Oh,
But
like
like for
the
a standard
fucking
like
German Zweihanders?
yeah, that's one that immediately came to mind. I was like, I'll probably use a more general term, but like
Claymores weren't as
yeah,
heavy. Zweihanders were the
oh yeah,
heaviest great sword, and they
yeah,
only weigh about 13 pounds,
yeah.
which is
It's like
interesting.
it's interesting to think because like great swords in media are way bigger
Oh
than
yeah.
like they actually were.
And they have more heft than they should. The Zweihander, if I actually saw that in like a show or something, I would completely believe that it could break through like ground and concrete and shit. Cause that was a
Yeah,
heavy sword. That was honest to God, you swinging around a big iron pole with a fucking
yeah.
sharp
It's
edge.
like it's a big boy. Like they're a big class of sword.
But then your normal long sword would only be like 5 pounds, and then a short sword would be under 3 pounds. That's just so weird to
Yeah,
think about, especially since they didn't have like aluminum or any like smaller metals like that.
yeah. It's just like spring steel.
Yeah. Or even just, what would it, cast iron, I think is, no,
No,
doesn't sound
that would
right.
be cast iron. Well, a lot of the time it was like more of like forged steel, not cast.
Yeah.
Because cast is just a lot worse for making things like that. Like you could make axes out of like cast iron.
I think it was
Like
forged iron instead of forged steel because I don't think. Well, maybe later they had the methods to make steel, but I don't think it was that late or that early, was it?
I'm pretty sure like early steels, because all you need to make steel is just an introduction of like other elements in carbon into the iron.
Hmm. Interesting.
So like, and obviously like there's a lot of sources of carbon, so
True.
and plus like that could also just be like a lot of the time, at least I guess how it originally could have came about is just like imperfections in the iron that ended up, getting kind of pulled out and, made steel or primitive steel, I would guess I would call it.
Hmm. Because I know originally the way that they made, obviously, like iron and stuff, was they had basically they got iron filings or not filings, but iron sand, and they stuck it in a fucking furnace, and then they let that basically heat up, and then they would forge it into an actual ingot,
Yeah.
which is
I know
interesting.
for I know in some places they did that. I know I heard at one point that there, I forgot what it was specifically. There is like a like specific like I forgot what it was. There's something in like swamps you can find. I would have to go remember exactly what they call it. It's some like iron alloy you can find like in like a literal like crystalline, like not exactly what I would call crystalline form, but you can find like solid chunks of it in like swamps and shit in Europe. I forgot what it was called,
That's
but I know
interesting.
that's what one of the earlier sources of iron was for, at least in Europe. Because I had heard about the like the iron sand thing, and that was because there was some guy talking about like how Japanese steel like originated basically, and that's because that's like their only source of iron basically was an iron sand.
Huh.
So I know that's how they did theirs.
Yeah, let's see, iron, sand, and then that alloy. That reminds me of a fucking one of the older stories about like where the term what is it called, ironwood came from.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Is from that, it's like because they found it in swamps under trees or some shit like that. They call it like ironwood, but it was actually just like I don't think it was quite steel because it wasn't rust resistant. I think it was like or stainless. My brain, but I forgot what it was alloyed with. I think it was like a sodium type thing.
I'd have to go take a look to see, but because I genuinely could not remember
Yeah, I
what
getcha.
exactly, but I do remember hearing about like, hey, like this is like most likely where like early European fucking yeah, like those like early European steel like originated with that shit.
Hmm. Interesting.
And then like obviously the sand thing, I remember that.
Yeah. Another thing is like different weapons. Like it makes sense that obviously swords wouldn't be so heavy, but honestly, they had shit like the flails and stuff. It's like a fucking 10-pound flail that like 5 to 10 pound flail on average.
Yeah, because you have like literally a big old chunk of just solid steel on a chain.
Yeah. But also think about like halberds,
Oh yeah, but
cause
halberds are kind of a weird thing because like there's a lot of different like halberd and halberd like things. Like you have like pole arms and oh, medieval weapons are silly, but yeah, halberds are like a way more common weapon than like a lot of people think because it's not a weapon that like everyone could name, but it's probably one of like the most commonly used weapons of the era.
oh yeah, and I mean not to mention that it's like there is I forget what his name was, but it was like a king who could swing around a double-handed halberd with one hand because he was like 6 foot like 7 or something to that degree. And it's just insane to think about. It's like, that's like 20 pounds on a lever, too.
Yeah, it's like heavy fucker.
And that's why it was like two-handed. Even long swords are two-handed. They,
Yeah.
they were swung one-handedly more often than not, but
Yeah, but like at the same time, it's like they're designed to be used in two hands because you just have better control and better power. That was like the big thing. Is like, yeah, you can actually use this thing properly if you hold it with two hands instead of swinging around with one hand like a maniac.
yeah. Maniacs, berserkers. Dude, there's so many interesting stories about medieval days. Like, berserkers is the one that gets me. Where it's like, what is that all from? I think a lot of it's from fucking magic mushrooms or something to that degree. Because I remember there was a stew they made before they fucking went into battle.
Like that would honestly, that would add up.
Because it's like, and I know berserkers were like meant to die in general. Like their whole purpose was basically fight then die. But it's just interesting to think about that. Like, I wonder what type of super steroid they fucking concocted together.
Probably some like if I mentioned like magic mushrooms, like other kinds of like just random plants they found.
True.
Like that'd be the best guess.
I mean, don't get me wrong, like, berserkers. I mean, a lot of the times I would classify them just about the same as I would, like, a normal Viking. Just because my brain always thinks, yeah, Vikings basically go out to die in battle. And they go, like, so hard that, like, it's like nothing can stop them. They're on their own fucking high. The fucking adrenaline high
Yeah.
those guys had was probably, like, leaps and bounds higher than what we get now.
Yeah.
Because the type of hysterical strength they had back then was, like, freaking legendary. And it breaks my brain.
granted, there's like crazy feats of like hysterical strength in some people, but at the same time, it's like on a widespread scale. It's like, so you see, you have an entire you have like a few dozen people like that at like the same time, and then you just, don't lose.
Yeah, it's true. And I mean, nowadays, the hysterical strength that we got, I'm pretty sure, like, it was the same with, I was reading and watching something on the greatest lifter before the steroid era.
Uh-huh.
And it's like, this guy fucking broke past the 800 fucking pound mark without anything. And it was a fact because medically and scientifically they didn't exist. Steroids did not exist. And he was a farm guy. And it was like, what the crap?
It's like, yeah, you can just like lift 800 pounds. Why? Yep.
Yeah. And from history and like his look and everything, I think he was about 5'7", which would be average about then. But that's like, what the heck? And apparently he was around 170, 180 when he was doing all these lifts. So he was about our size, which is kind of scary to think of.
he's not like crazy tall. It's like,
but
crazy heavy, I should say. Like, not.
Yeah, from what I read, it was just a lot of his motivation was like, because there was times like this was like World War II, World War I era. So he was drafted, and then when he got back, he literally started lifting again and shit like that, and it's like, holy cow, that's freaking insane. Dude, that was, what would that be considered? Because I know we have eras for lifters. That would be like, not Bronze Era, because Bronze Era was around Arnold's time, even when lifters were about. It wasn't just bodybuilders, because Arnold was considered a great lifter and bodybuilder.
Yeah.
It's just wacky. All this shit is wacky, dude, I'm telling you.
Wacky shit, dude.
Crazy.
This is me, wacky shit on the Wacky Shit podcast.
The craziest, wackiest shit.
Craziest, wackiest podcast. JK, it's not a podcast.
Lamau. Get through. Oh, I survived. Yeah. I think armor was also a big thing, but armor, I think it's more impressive that they could haul around the armor more than the swords.
Actually, from what I remember reading, it's actually not as heavy or like heavy a load as like people think. Like people in full plate armor were surprisingly mobile.
Yeah, and a lot of that had to do with the way it was built, because it was separated so well, the fucking different plates and shit, that they had so much mobility.
Yeah, because like if you were to weigh the whole, like, plate armor is like ridiculously heavy, but it's all spread out over your entire body basically. So
true.
It's instead of like it's all like hung off your shoulders like if you had a really heavy coat on. It's all, you're strapped into this thing, and it's just instead of weighing down just one part of you all at once like you would when you're normally lifting something. It's like that weight spread across your entire body instead. So it's just perceivably less heavy.
That makes sense.
I guess that's kind of how I think about it, basically, is that, like, if you were to lift, like, plate armor, that would be worse than wearing it.
Yeah, which also makes sense because, like, all the pieces, like the shin guards and stuff, were 100%, like, attached by, like, straps, like the leather straps and stuff.
Yeah.
So that makes sense, but then it's also like, I don't know. There's different types of plate armor too, isn't there?
There's plate armor is obviously
a broad term.
Like all things. It's a broad term,
yeah.
But like obviously there's different styles of plate armor. Like you have you have very like typical like fucking like Western style plate armor, the stuff you really think of as plate armor. But then like if you look at it like in the broad definition, plate armor is just armor made of steel plates, or like I guess if you wanted to really say plates in general. And I don't know the actual like name for it, but like the armor samurais wore is made of steel plates, but
I
you
thought
wouldn't
that
really
was
consider it.
I thought that was different. I thought they made theirs out of ceramic and wood or
I
paper.
can I can go look and see what it's made of, but I'm pretty sure parts of it are steel. Hold up, let me remember this. I might be misremembering.
It might be a different culture you're thinking of, but I'm pretty sure a lot of samurai stuff was as light as you could get while being as defensive.
Steel, leather, and wood are what it's typically made of.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting.
But yeah, fucking because that's made of like, it's a very different kind of like plate, but it is kind of plate. It's more like
Yeah.
it's more akin to like scale mail than like regular plate.
True. And it doesn't cover what a normal like full plate would, because it's
Yeah.
what is sectioned off, right, or something like that.
Yeah, it's sectioned into like parts basically, instead of like it's just a whole solid thing. Well, it's obviously plate armor is not a whole solid thing as well. It's like it's just less complete, I think, if I remember correctly.
Hmm. There's always crazy stories about fucking medieval people doing insane things with insane amount of weight. But usually it's with a weapon, which makes sense. Because
Yeah.
honestly, an insane amount of weight for a weapon on a lever would be like 20 pounds. Like, that's really
Yeah.
fucking heavy to put on a lever.
Oh yeah, you put 20 pounds on the end of like a 3 foot long stick. Yeah. You are a very very bad time.
It kind of hurty a lotty.
It's like you're no longer lifting 20 pounds. It's more like you're lifting 60 pounds.
Yeah. Oh, dude. I think we talked about this before, but do you think there'll be another Dark Souls game?
I don't think so. Like, I'm pretty sure their contract is up. So if there was another actually no, I remember that. I remember this because I'm pretty sure, if I remember correctly, Bandai Namco and From Software had a contract for the Dark Souls franchise, where basically Bandai Namco had the rights to publish and make the games for X number of years, and then after Ring City, they obviously rushed out remastered as fast as possible because that was like one of the last years they were actually able to release like Dark Souls games under Bandai Namco.
Yeah. Ugh, that sucks.
So, like, it does suck, but like, it does like, it's a kind of a thing. It's like, it's not a franchise I really would like to see like continue like some franchises have, where they kind of just go on for basically ever when there's nothing really new to do.
Yeah.
And like I would think like, yeah, like if there was a Dark Souls 4, that'd be pretty cool. Like I wouldn't complain, but I really wouldn't want to see it like continue a whole lot. I forgot who said it. I think there was some guy when they were talking about when it was like just announced that Dark Souls 3 was going to be the last Dark Souls game. They were talking about how they would much rather see it end on like this high note than have it like have some like really like mediocre game release and have it kind of ruin the like ruin it forever.
True.
Which I honestly kind of agree with. Like I'm with how the Dark Souls franchise ended off. I really wouldn't have it any other way. Ring City is a very good finale for the series, and
Even for a game like 3,
while
where it wasn't my favorite game,
oh yeah,
it was like it was
I would say
so good. It was.
Oh yeah, like I absolutely loved Ring City so much. It was great. It was a great time, and just a very just satisfying end to the franchise.
Yeah.
And I think that was kind of the consensus.
Booga booga.
Like
I died. Okay.
ah shit. This ends the second episode of the world's weirdest stupid podcast.
Absolutely. The 20-minute podcast.
Shit, that was 20 minutes?
Goodbye. Yeah.